From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven Erlandson, takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Hi guys, you have reached the Badass Counseling Show lightning round. It is so great to have you here, whether you are checking in from Queensland, Australia or Queens, New York, whether you are here from British Columbia or the British Isles, it's so great to have you here. I am Sven Erlandson, the Badass Counselor on social media and in New York City area. I am joined in studio as per usual with Rob the Rocket sitting next to me, and Casey is out of the booth. Rob unlocked it and let her out, and she is with us here in studio with the microphone. Rob, what were you thinking?
I have those days where nothing really goes right.
Thanks a lot.
Casey,
I'm sure she'll redeem herself right now. Here we go. Take it.
What say ye, Casey?
I don't really have a lot to say. That's why I stay in the booth all the time.
Yeah, she has so much to say. She's always got good things to say. And it's such a treat to have her out here joining us today. So nice to see you, Casey. We are here and we are taking your questions. Rob, had a good week? You did some traveling.
I did. I was in the UK and, Rocket Rob is the name that you give me. And Rocket is what they call arugula. In the UK. They've never heard the term arugula. And so my brother-in-law said, your name is Arugula Rob? And I said, yeah, works for me.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? And Casey, you've been traveling as well.
San Francisco?
What?
I was in San Francisco.
Yeah?
Rob is going to kill me.
Why is Rob going to kill you?
Microphones, they're sort of important.
This is why I stay in the booth, guys.
All it requires is leaning in. All right. But it's great to have you here, Casey. Thanks for joining us. Yes. Well, we're going to fire it right up here. We've got the first question coming in from Soulful Odyssey on TikTok. Ask the question, letting go of a relationship with a narcissist when you know it's best. It was 30 years and I feel guilty. Isn't it fascinating that you're doing something, you feel the need to let go of someone, and yet you feel guilty? And that's totally understandable, even though you know you need to do it. And of course, as you guys know, what I say to that is, if you're feeling guilty about something, if you're feeling anything about something, we always make our worst decisions. We always stay stuck in our worst ruts when we are swollen pregnant with emotions that we haven't gotten out of us. This is why so many people who have never journaled, for instance, for the very first time, start journaling and they realize, holy crap, it just feels nice to get it out of my system. And this is what you need to be doing. Soulful Odyssey is flushing that out. I mean, think about it. Why do people go to counseling? People go to counseling. Why? Because they want somebody they can talk to, right? And there's an effect of getting it out of our system, especially if we're not used to being able to talk about our shit. Being able to talk it out, it just feels so good, but also to get some feedback. If you have a good therapist that gives you feedback, or a clergy person or a favorite uncle you like to talk out your problems with who's a good listener, right? It's just nice to be able to flush it out. Well, it doesn't require a therapist. Yes, a great therapist can be fantastic. But even if you don't have that, or in between your therapy sessions, or in between your times of counseling with your clergy person, you need to be journaling. You need to be writing letters to that person, in this case, Soulful Odyssey, writing letters to this person that you do not send, because the purpose isn't to say anything to them. The purpose is to flush it out of your system. But there's something about letter writing for most of us that's easy to do, and it enables us to say all the things we want to say in the strongest language possible. You fucking asshole, why did you do these things? Yet I feel so bad. I love you so much. I'm going to miss you. All those feelings. And the truth is, how many of us, hell, right here in this studio, I'll ask these guys, have you ever been in a relationship where you loved the person, but you still knew you had to end it?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, it was a matter of my own survival at that point.
Hard to do?
Very hard.
Yeah?
I didn't realize how much pain I was in until my therapist at the time said, you must be in such enormous pain. I said, oh, wait. Yeah.
Naming the beast.
It all came pouring out at that point. Exactly. Naming the beast is right. Casey, ever have that happen?
Every relationship.
Really? You have a tendency to leave men in your dust? Is that what you're saying?
No, I have a tendency to stay too long.
Yeah? Sort of past the freshness date?
Past the freshness date.
But it's hard to do, but you got to leave it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all struggled with that. All right, next question I've got going here is from Green-Eyed Lou. Hey, Green-Eyed Lou on TikTok. Green-Eyed Lou says, why does someone cheat for 20 years but won't leave the spouse? That's a good one. KC, you want to weigh in on this? If not, I'll run with it.
Because they get to have everything.
Yeah,
They get to have you and the other person.
Yep.
While deceiving you the whole time.
Or even while telling you, but if you stay and allow it, they get to have two people pouring love into their love cup, right? And the truth is, and this isn't blame the victim at all. No way. It's horrible. I've been cheated on. I know KC has been cheated on. Rob has been cheated on. We know what it's like. And so I'm not in any way blaming the victim. But what I am saying is, as long as I allow someone to mistreat me, they're going to keep doing it more often than not. Why? Because they can. Why do bullies bully? Because they can. Right? And so unless and until I have the courage to walk away, they're going to keep doing it. And so they won't leave because they don't want to leave. They don't have to leave. They get all your love and they get love from someone else, or they get sex from someone else, or they get an emotional relationship with someone else. They get to have both. They get double pour into their love cup, which really indicates how great their own need is. And I'm not saying that to justify it. I'm just saying, as the title of my book says, there's a hole in their love cup. It doesn't matter how much love they get. They could be getting it from 3 different lovers, right? I remember Oprah Winfrey tells that story of she was cheating with a married man. He was cheating on his wife with her. And she was so in love and so on and so forth until she discovered that he was also cheating with another person. So he had 3 sources of love pouring love into his love cup in one form or another, right? And probably from his thinking, it's like, why not? I can get away with it. These people let me. So the reason someone does it is because they can, and they ultimately don't care about you as much as they care about their own selves. And that's a hard realization to come to, and you got to end it to save yourself. Next question. Is acting in love opposite to in fear always a good thing to do? No. The question, if I'm reading this correctly, and you guys check me on this, is acting in love opposite from acting in fear always a good thing to do? It's very interesting. I had a conversation when I moved out here to the East Coast. I was actually having a conversation with KC, and I think the 3 of us with Rob. Yeah, I think it was the 3 of us, whatever it was. But KC made the comment. She grew up here in the Bronx, and she grew up not far from Ocean City or Ocean Beach, right?
City Island.
City Island, that's it. And anyway, she'd go to the beach and so on and so forth. And she said one of the things that her mother taught her was, growing up in the Bronx in the 60s and 70s, is never turn your back on the ocean. Never turn your back on the ocean. And, basically respect this thing. And respecting the ocean is a form of fear. The fear that it could, swallow you up. It could destroy you. It's a powerful beast. And so acting out of that fear is smart when you're in the ocean, right? And you may love the ocean. You may want to swim in it. You may want to laugh and play and splash and swim and all these things, but you have to have a healthy respect. And so acting in love isn't always the best thing. In fact, we were just talking a minute ago about how each one of us have been in relationships where someone is cheated on, or where you loved someone, but you knew you had to leave. Well, why would you know you have to leave? You know you have to leave because there's a pattern of behavior in place that hurts me. And where this is irredeemable, where this relationship is not going to change. So for fear of more pain in the future, I'm going to end this relationship now, even though I love the person. So while, as a general rule, spending a life acting out of fear is not a good way to live, there are times when fear of future pain causes us to choose to act out of quote unquote fear rather than always acting out of the quote loving thing. Or another way to look at it is, act out of love for yourself at times. You have to. It's not selfish. Love of self, respect of self. What do I teach people in counseling? What does any therapist teach, or clergy person or what have you, teach people in counseling? You have to learn to love yourself. And you have to learn to love yourself enough to be able to say no to other people. All right, next question.
And I just want to add that when you're living in a peaceful relationship where you don't have to live in fear and have to worry about what your partner is doing, that's the way for me to live now. I've lived in enough of those fearful relationships to know that I want to live in peaceful relationships.
Amen. It's funny. I had a client just this week talking about, and this is a fella in his, oh gosh, what is he? Late 40s. And he was talking about Sven, I just want peace. He said, I don't want to date any woman that is, I like a woman who has, a bit of anxiety and a little manic and so forth. I've always liked, high stress women, but he says less so now. He says, a bit of that is sure, it's exciting and fun, a little bitchy, it's a little fun. He said, I just want peace now. And in my career, I just want peace. And we learn that as we age, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Rob, has that been one of your growth?
I got a lot of growth issues, yes.
I have a growth on my ass.
Yeah, all right. I got 2 questions here that are similar. How about this? You want a 2 for 1?
Yeah, give it to me.
All right, I got Mercy and I got Crystal. Mercy says, when does the need to flush shit out stop, specifically with sexual abuse, shame, etc.? And then Crystal says, when you've gotten all the outside voices that were in you out, how do you get your own internal voice to speak again?
All right, I need you to read that to me one more time, Rob.
Okay, surely. Mercy says, when does the need to flush shit out stop, specifically when sexual abuse and shame are involved? And then Crystal says, when you've gotten all the outside voices that were in you out, how do you get your own internal voice to speak again?
Truth is, you never stop flushing out the shit inside of you. Never, ever, ever, ever. I've been doing this shit. I started my own deliberate spiritual journey when I was 19. I had been journaling since I was 13. I have literally never stopped journaling. Okay, I don't do it as much now because I've gotten out a lot of the stuff, but I still have times when I go to my pad of paper and my pen. I still have times when I'll grab a cocktail napkin when I'm just sitting at a bar having a drink because I'm, flying on business or whatever, and I'll grab the cocktail napkin and I'll start writing a letter to the person I'm upset with or hurt by or angry at. It never stops. How do you know when to stop? You stop when your own, and this leads into the second question by the second person, you stop when your own natural self is rising up within you. And then you move forward, knowing there's going to be a new dose of crud at some point that comes into your life, whether from work or from love or from family or what have you. And so really, you never stop. And the truth is, if you have to ask the question, should I stop? You're not there yet. There's still something in you. There's always more in you. And usually if someone's like stuck or doesn't know if they should keep going or not, it's because they need to go deeper. There's something deeper that they haven't hit on. You feel like we hit that one, Rob?
You got it.
All right, good. Next question. Here we go. This is Rochelle. And this actually somewhat dovetails into a post I literally just put up within the last hour on social media, a 1.5 minute long post that I put up on parenting, step parenting, having children, walking away from your children, that sort of thing. And Rochelle on TikTok says, 22-year-old son throws in my face that I was a bad mom for staying in bad relationships for 8 years, not his dad. And I'm sure it hurts to have your 22-year-old son throw that in your face for being a bad mom, for staying in a bad relationship for 8 years. And that hurts. The bottom line is your son is wanting something. First of all, he's hurting, and that he probably throws it in your face to hurt you back because you hurt him. I'm betting. I've never met your son. I've never talked to him, but I'm betting. He has a lot of pain inside of him, and he wants healing from that pain, and he likely wants ownership of it. And so the question becomes to you, have you done the work of owning it and sitting down and talking with him, but especially sitting down and listening? I put up a video, I believe the last time I put it up was December 24th or 25th of 2023. December 24th. So it's Christmas Eve or Christmas Day of 2023, last year. And it's an outdoor video, and it's the 7 things you can do to help your adult child heal. And I strongly recommend that you take a look at that, Rochelle. My question to you is, have you, apart from your son, have you done your own journaling on this relationship that you were in for 8 years? Have you journaled about it? Have you written letters to that person that you do not send and gotten all your feelings out? Have you written letters to your own son that you do not send? In other words, what I'm really getting at is how much of your own feelings are blocking your ability, and maybe none. There may be none of this, but I have to ask the question, how much of your own feelings are blocking your ability to hear and be present to your son and your son's need? Now, it could be that he's just bringing these things up because he wants to hurt you because he's still hurting, but it could also be he's bringing these things up because he wants your attention, he wants your love, he wants more time, and he wants acknowledgement and an ownership of the pain that he went through. Because if he was in it for 8 years, that probably covered a significant span, maybe from preteen through teen years or, very, very young years. So those are all very significant years. And he needs his needs met. And so I would encourage you to watch that video to start as a good sort of starting place on what you can do to help him heal. Again, that's the 24th or 25th, one of those two of 2023. You can go to any of my social media sites. The easiest ones to pull it up, because you can scroll through them easier, or either Instagram or TikTok. But it's the 7 things you can do to help your adult child heal. All right. Rochelle on TikTok asks the question, my mom always said to me, quote, treat people how you want to be treated, end quote. How would you feel? I'm not fully 100% clear on what the question is, but I'm going to play with it. And if Rob or KC has input on if I'm misinterpreting the question, please feel free to chime in. Treat people how you would like to be treated. It's not a bad principle, but the problem is, what if someone else wants to be treated differently from how you are treated? See, that's the issue. See, some people like to be treated, I'll give a simple little example. When it comes to counseling, there are lots of therapists who have all different techniques, all different styles. Some are very, very gentle and very compassionate. Some are somewhat gentle and somewhat, a bit firmer. Some are very firm, but also very, very compassionate. And, I'm way over here of, I'm tough on you, but I love the hell out of you. And so not being tough on my clients, for me, it doesn't work. So I'm loving on my clients. I'm giving my clients the type of counseling that I would want and that I believe they need. But if I'm giving that to a client who just wants the super compassion without the toughness, it's not going to work, is it? It's not going to work. Well, it's the same way in a love relationship. Rob, you got something you want to say?
Yeah, love your neighbor the way your neighbor wants to be loved.
It really is about that. And while also simultaneously ensuring that your own needs are met. It's not selfish to want your own needs to be met and to stand up for yourself to get your needs for love and your met and your feelings honored. Go ahead, Casey.
Somebody in the Badass Counseling group had asked a question of you, saying that they had been in counseling for like 2 months and they really weren't clicking with the person that was counseling them. They found themselves having to like re-explain things that they had explained in previous sessions. The person is not taking notes. They often forget little details and stuff, and they're wondering if that's normal in counseling or if they should move on and get another counseling. They were really, really upset by the fact of having to retell their story after 2 months of just starting to get their story out. Yeah. And I know the way that you counsel is completely different. You do the whole autobiography, so you're not wasting 2 months of counseling, et cetera.
Yeah. And so you're wondering if
should they move on and start over, or is that normal?
Right. And that's actually a great question. I personally, first of all, you have to understand every therapist operates differently. And there are therapists who don't take any notes who are fantastic therapists. There are therapists who take copious notes. I take incessant notes throughout, and I have every client write an autobiography that I read before our session. I spend 2 to 3 hours not just reading, but studying it and marking it up with all my notes so that we can hit the ground running. So I'm not spending the next 2 months just getting to know you. All right. Well, that's how I work. But the truth is, sometimes I still drop the occasional detail. I forget or whatever, but I usually review my notes before session and so forth. I figure that's what the hell you're paying for, man. But some don't. And the bottom line is this person wouldn't have posted this comment in the Badass Counseling group on Facebook. This person would not have posted that unless it upset the person. Something didn't feel right. She wouldn't even be raising the question if it worked fine or whatever. No, she's fundamentally saying, A, it doesn't feel good. B, I don't like that I'm having to do this shit. Why are we wasting time on this shit? So for my counsel to that person would be, you're already discontent. You're already unhappy with it. And you can spend time having that conversation with your therapist, or you can move on, or you can do both. But for me personally, is someone dropping details or we're constantly having to review, and it's not a one-off. If it happens once or twice.
It's a pattern of behavior.
It's a pattern of behavior, and that's a problem. That's someone who doesn't give a shit enough to review their notes or just remember shit. And the truth is, every therapist has multiple clients, but when you are in session with that client, man, your full attention. If you got to, and I'm saying this to therapists, if you got to study the previous notes from past sessions, or maybe this client hasn't been in 6 months, you damn sure better review review your notes. And if you don't have notes, what the fuck? Then give them a fucking hour free to get caught up. Give them a half hour free to get caught up. Then do your hour-long session and charge them. What are you giggling about, Rob?
Well, I had my first therapist. This was many years ago. This was in the 80s.
All right,
on the Upper West Side of New York City. And it was a beautiful old pre-war apartment with a lovely couch. And I would sit on the couch with kind of my back to him, not fully reclining. It was a lovely older gentleman who really did help me. But at one point, I could hear him snoring.
Oh,
and
no.
So I just waited to see, maybe he would revive himself. And he did. And he said, "Why did you stop?"
Oh, my God.
The balls. Oh, man. And you know what's funny about that, Rob? I have been in counseling before, especially, 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And I've grown to realize about myself that that's a little tricky time for me. And so I always have extra caffeine in the room. And I make sure it's just like before I go in, I study my notes. It's like if I got to do some push-ups and some sit-ups or whatever to get my blood going. But it's just like going on a long drive, man. You got a responsibility to be present. What were you going to say?
Nothing.
What?
No.
All right, fair enough.
Just those memories come flooding. It's not that I wasn't interesting.
Why you stop?
Well, it's sort of confirming, what we don't want to have confirmed, which is we don't matter.
That's exactly
It's
it.
just like, I don't matter, even to my therapist.
I'm paying you money to just pretend that I matter, please, for an hour, and you're still taking a nap? You fucking cocksucker.
And
All
then
right.
he had the most incredible interpretation of a dream that I've ever heard in my life.
Wow.
It stayed with me. It was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, and there you go. There's a counter message that maybe somebody just had a bad day.
Therapists are human too.
No, I guess so, but fucking A, I'm paying you, man. All right. Listen, we're going to have much more to come right after this short break.
You've heard Sven talk a lot about his book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup. And that's because Sven hears from his followers a lot about how much the book has helped them. If you're not sure how to handle the issues getting in the way of a better life, you're not alone. And you have a lot of choices. But thousands of readers will tell you that this is a great place to start, by yourself and at your own pace. So go to badasscounseling.com and order There's a Hole in My Love Cup, and you'll have Sven right there with you as you forge your best future. It's totally badass. So get started today.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
Hi, guys. We are back with more questions. I've got a question here from Michelle. Why did narcissists treat your boys with so much disrespect? By your boys, I'm going to assume you mean your children. So why do narcissists, presumably your spouse, treat their children with so much disrespect? It really goes back to the question we were talking about earlier, where we were talking about cheating and having, so at the very beginning of the show, a woman asked, my husband cheated on me for 20 years. Why did he do that? And I said, it sucks to hear, but because he can. He got away with it, right? Your husband is doing this because no one's stopping them, and it's stopping him, and it's fundamentally about him. And he is fundamentally saying, I value me, my doing whatever I want, my being king shit of the world, doing whatever I want, whenever I want, more than I value bringing love to my own children. The level of crass, the level of brass balls, and not in a good way, that it takes to disrespect and be unkind to your own children because of your own selfishness is so profound. I'll be very, very honest with you, Michelle, and this is a hard thing to hear, but let me ask you this. Are you still married? It really is the question I want to ask. Because if you are still married, why are you allowing him to do this? The truth is, you have more power than your sons do. You have more power than your children. And you have to exercise that power. You have the responsibility to stand up for them to the degree and above and beyond, if you can, to the degree you're able. Your first job is protection. And I feel very bad for the place your sons are in, but what can you do to protect them? And the question I always have to ask myself in any situation is, how am I part of the problem I'm trying to solve? How am I part of the problem? And what do I need to do in this situation to make it better, especially if I have responsibility for an entity that has less power than me, such as your sons? And so if you're my client, we'd be having conversations about what more can you be doing to protect your kids. But the bottom line is, what's interesting is you're asking the question, why does he do it? Which is a really interesting question. You're wanting to understand why your husband, a narcissist husband, is treating your boys with so much respect, which implies if you're trying to understand it, you're trying to figure out a way to bring it to a stop, presumably. And in the end, you may just have to stand up and shut it down, because otherwise, and this is brutal to hear, but you'll have to answer to your son someday when they'll ask you, why didn't you protect us? And they have every right to ask that, because job one of the parent is to protect the child. This is Kristen asking the question, do people ever regret leaving the narcissistic marriage? I'm 47 and afraid to go from frying pan to the fire. Of course. People regret leaving relationships all the time. And you want to know why they regret them? The mere fact that you're considering leaving it, right? You say, I'm afraid of leaving this because, I don't want to jump into a worse situation. People regret it all the time. And the reason they regret it is because they don't know how to live on their own. The reason, in all likelihood, that you have stayed in a relationship with a narcissist is why? Because you're terrified of the thought of being alone, not the idea of just the mechanics, the logistics of how do I pay my own bills, but also, which is significant, but also all those voices inside of you, potentially, in all likelihood, from your own past that say, I'm no good, I'm a loser, I'm not lovable, are now rising up as this person leaves you, are now rising up. All those messages that have been there the whole time are now rising up and beating on you from inside, right? Because look, I'm a loser, I'm alone now, see, I'm unlovable, see, no one wants me. But as long as you've got someone here, even if they're a total shithead, as long as I've got someone here, the mere fact that this person, your present husband, is here, says, oh, I must have worth. Even if we'll sell the farm, just don't leave. Why? Because your mere presence confirms that I'm good enough to be loved, or at the very least, it makes all those voices inside go away. So what you're really afraid of is those voices inside of you. So you're going to regret it. As long as those voices are torturing you, yeah, you're going to regret leaving that relationship, because that relationship made those voices go away from inside of you. All those messages from your childhood that got pressed into the wet cement of your soul. And that's why the work is to begin to do the work to flush those messages out, to begin to journal out, to go to therapy, to get out of you, to use my book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup, to use these tools to get those voices out of you, to go into where those messages came from, and to begin to cut that cancer out of you. Because until you do that, you're going to be running from those voices your whole life. And even if you do leave this narcissist, you're still going to be tortured by these voices, which means you're going to jump into a new relationship for the sole purpose that it makes those voices go away. So you're choosing a relationship for the wrong reason. You're choosing a relationship out of fear of those inner voices. So I'm going to choose someone and bring some new person back. Oh, now I have somebody new. Oh, thank goodness. Those voices from inside, those messages of how shitty I am. Good, they've gone away. So you're going to go into the next relationship and hold on to the next relationship for the exact same reason you've held on to this relationship. So until you do the work, it doesn't matter if you stay or if you go. You got to do the work inside of you, because until you do that, you're fucked. All right.
Erica chimes in about this and says, so if a woman is in this situation,
or a man, but go ahead.
Or a man, and then is only able to get 50-50 custody, how can they protect and or repair any ongoing damage when a narc is involved?
Well, the truth is this. That's a question I've gotten many times over 30 years. And that's a great question, Erica. And a lot of people will stay in a relationship because, I can't protect my kids when they're with, they're the other parent, the mother or the father or whatever. And I always say this, well, shit, if it's problem enough for you to be considering divorcing, then obviously you're not protecting your children while they're under your roof, right? The problem exists now such that you're thinking about leaving. Well, if the problem exists now and the problem exists for your children now, then even being under the same roof as them isn't enough protection for your kids, which is part of the reason you're considering leaving. So even staying in it doesn't protect them. Furthermore, over 30 years, one of the questions, this is a question I've asked clients many times, whether they are the ones in it, whether it's 40 years later and they are the kid in it. And more often than not, what I got was, I wish they would have gotten me out at least half of the time, because then I would at least have some security. Then I could have at least had some peace. Instead, 100% of my life was this non-peace. And the mere fact that my father didn't get me out of there from my, abusive mother, or the mere fact that my mother didn't get me out of there, she didn't protect me. He didn't protect me. And I say, well, why didn't they? Well, they had this, that, and the other thing going on. And what sometimes, not always, sometimes, not always, sometimes, what they discover is my parent that stayed, rather than getting me the hell out of there, was protecting themselves, because they didn't want to incur the wrath of the other spouse, or they didn't want to incur the wrath of their own family or their own parents or what have you. Sometimes that adult child many years later says, fucking A, you stayed in it to protect yourself, so that you wouldn't have to deal with financial instability or what people would think of you or whatever. But no one is disputing that that is a hard decision. What is in the best interest of the kids? And I'll be very, very honest with you, it's on a case-by-case basis. Of course, generally speaking, having been counseling people for 30 years in this, I tilt towards get the children the hell out of there. Because the truth is, if there is physical abuse, then you can get the law involved. If there's extreme verbal, emotional abuse, you can get the law involved. And yes, it is slow. Yes, it is hard. But you have a responsibility to protect the child. Thoughts?
Well, I just like to say that I was in 2 relationships with what I'm going to call extreme takers versus narcissists, but I don't regret leaving either one of those relationships. The first time, it was definitely a mentally abusive relationship. Glad I got out of it. I got tricked by the second person. I didn't realize that they were an extreme taker, but they definitely were. And I got out of that relationship. And those 2 relationships taught me, what to make sure to demand in future relationships. And that is, I'm an extreme giver, so I can end up with an extreme taker very easily. And, you matter, and you need to get out of that relationship and choose healthier relationships for yourself and for your children.
All right. Great input. Rob, you got another question or what?
I do. I have one from YouTube here from Michaela, one of your loyal readers.
All right.
Who says, hi, I finished reading your book for the second time, and I know my truth, but I still can't move on. I can see it clearly, but I can't move.
Yeah, Michaela, you've got something inside of you bogging you down. So this is not an absence of your own self not revealing itself. It's that there is still the presence of something else. There's the presence of either pain, fear, or some bullshit belief you've been taught about yourself that is still not uncovered or you don't want to let go of. And so the question I would ask you if we were in counseling, Michaela, is I'd ask you the question, if you were to just spitball it off the top of your head, do you think it's a pain, a fear, or something that you still believe about yourself that might be undermining, that you maybe can't even see, or that you were taught about yourself that is undermining your own sense of worth? Because if you can see the vision clearly, but you don't have the motivation or the energy or the willpower to pursue it, or maybe you go after it and you stop, you start and stop and start and stop. You have one foot on the accelerator and one foot on the brake. It's because you still have some sort of pain or bullshit belief you've been taught about yourself inside of yourself that's stopping you from pursuing it. It's bogging you down from the inside. And so I guess where I would start in all of this is I would ask you the question, what in this entire equation of you and your new vision, what is your single greatest fear? Is it fear of failing? And if it is fear of failing, is it fear of what people might say? And if so, what is it you most fear someone saying or thinking about you? Is it fear of what? A fear of the price? Fear of who you might have to let go? Fear of criticism? There's always a fear. And I'd be curious to know what the fear is, because somewhere underneath that fear, somewhere underneath this entire thing of what's created, is that there's a primary anxiety point. And the primary anxiety point, the primary fear, is always like a neon sign saying, the problem's here, the problem's here, the problem's here. Okay. And it's showing you where you need to start digging in your own journaling and self-work and work with your own therapist. Because that underneath that is what's keeping you and holding you back.
Another loyal reader says, I love your book. Thank you for getting me into writing again. I recommend it to my fellow recovering addicts.
Awesome.
And told my new therapist all about it.
Awesome. Love hearing that. That's fantastic. Thanks for saying so. And here we go. Oh, this is good. This is good. We're going to have fun with this one. Not fun, but you know what I mean. How do you get someone to see reality instead of what they perceive?
Ooh.
We're all sort of giggling because that's a tricky little slippery little booger because well, for a couple of reasons. One, there are situations where there is a reality and someone doesn't want to see it. Okay? Especially if someone's dealing with a very hard life or if they have a lot of trauma. A lot of times they can't see, for instance, what sometimes happens with a lot of trauma or with divorce or something like that, the people sometimes turn on the people that are trying to love on them. Where, you can't differentiate between your friends and your enemies. Sometimes we get clouded and so on and so forth. But where I'm really going with this is ultimately all we have is our own interpretation of reality. Our own interpretation of reality. And this dovetails into, I get people saying to me, Sven, all the time, Sven, what's the point of going back into my childhood? It's pointless. What this healing child stuff? You can't rewrite the past. What's the point in looking into the past? You got to move forward and, blah, 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 that bullshit. And my response to that is always this. What do you mean you can't rewrite the past? Of course you can rewrite the past. It's silly. Of course you can rewrite the past. Let's go into that past. Send me your 10-page autobiography. Let me study it for 2 to 3 hours. Give me a 4 to 6 hour session with you. And I guarantee you, we're going to go into that past and what we're going to discover is what you thought was reality wasn't in fact reality. Therefore, your interpretation of the sequence of events that happened in your life is radically different from another person's interpretation. For instance, as I might be seeing it as your therapist. So I'm going to read it back to you. I'm not going to try to force it down your throat, but I'm going to put it in your mouth because you've had a reality stuffed down your throat and you've never even tasted another reality. So I'm going to put this other reality into your throat, into your mouth, whether you like it or not, and you're going to taste it and you're going to chew it a bit. And if you hate it, spit it out. Spit it the fuck out. If it doesn't resonate with you, God bless you. I'm probably full of shit. But if it tastes right, then holy shit. Then maybe what I've had rammed down my throat my entire life isn't my deeper reality or isn't a more comprehensive understanding of the truth. In other words, what I'm saying is we change our perception of reality, and that is what changes life. So how do I get someone else to change their perception of reality? That was your question. Ultimately, any number of different ways you can try. You can present them with your version of reality, right? You can talk to them, but if you're trying to get someone's attention, you can always just walk away from them. Nothing gets attention like losing someone you love. But the question becomes, why do you want them to, as you say, see reality and instead of what they perceive? And that would be my question. Why do you want that? And this is just such a complex question without more of the equation. All right, so we're going to leave that one there. But that's a really good question. But in the end, people's perception of reality is what they build their lives on. And in the end, if you don't like how someone is perceiving reality, you can attempt to try to convince them of your version of reality. But in the end, if they reject it, you've got two people seeing life differently. And in all likelihood, unless you can both overlook that, that's probably potentially going to hearken the demise of the relationship. All right, next question. Kayla over on TikTok asked the question, do you believe marriages can overcome cheating? Yes, absolutely. But the amount of work necessary, and not just the amount, the type of work necessary to overcome cheating is massive, and it's one that not a lot of people are equipped to do or equipped to even teach someone else to do. Basically, what I always tell people when I'm asked the question, will a cheater cheat again? My answer is yes, unless. And there are the two caveats. The two unlesses are unless they've actually done the work to heal. And what I mean by that is it requires going into, it's not just why did I cheat? Gee, my wife doesn't put out, so fuck her, I'm going to go cheat or whatever. No, it always goes back. Cheating always goes back to something long before the relationship. And I know that sounds insane to most people. I don't care. It goes back to childhood shit, messages. You got a fucking hole in your love cup that no amount of love is filling. And so you figure, well, fuck it, I'll just go outside the relationship. Rather than having the decency to end the relationship first, you're going to go outside of the relationship. But the other thing is this, people will cheat again people will cheat again. But the thing you have to understand is A lot of times, what if we reframe the notion of cheating from having a sexual affair or an emotional affair with someone? What if we reframed it to be they will engage in some behavior that has the power to blow up the relationship? What if that's how we were to think about cheating? Something that has the power to blow up the relationship. Well, cheating has that power, but so does gambling. So does the bottle. So does pills. So does overworking, overparenting, overexercising, creating massive amount of chaos. All these things that we're doing to try to make our inner pain go away, to mute, to numb us, to escape that inner pain that started long before you met this person. This relationship may have heightened it, but it's long before that, all right? So this person, they will, if they do not go deep into discovering what happened way the hell back here, go deep into it and actually do the work of healing, which is what my book is for. There's a hole in my love cup and what this podcast is for and so forth. If you don't do that, you're going to engage in some behavior, again, that has the power to undermine this relationship. I say it with like 98% certainty, something will happen. So can a marriage be saved if there's been cheating? Yes, if the person who did the cheating has the balls and the tools. Again, that's what I wrote the book for. You can do it on your own. You don't have to pay a therapist. Furthermore, if you're going to pay a therapist, find one that specializes in cheating, and preferably specialize in it because they have personal experience. But here's the other piece, and this is the really tricky piece. If you've been cheated on and you're wondering whether or not you can save the marriage cannot be saved unless you have the brass balls to change you, the person who was cheated on. Am I saying, wait, you're saying I'm to blame for the cheating? You literally did not hear those words come out of my mouth. I did not say you are to blame for the cheating. What I'm saying is, if you don't change you, guess what? That person is either going to appear to change or maybe change for a while. And very often, if they haven't done the super deep work of healing their childhood, if they haven't done that, there's going to be a slide. And if you haven't changed you, that slide will either be imperceptible or you will let it go. You'll let it slide. Why? Because either A, you're not seeing it, B, you don't have the brass balls to stand up and say, fuck no. Again and again and again and again and again, because it's like retraining a dog. If you have a dog that goes pee-pee in the house and pee-pee out of the house, sometimes you have to retrain the dog to only go pee-pee out of the house. And that means every time they go over into the corner or they go on to your favorite, Afghan, and the blanket kind, not okay, and they start going pee-pee, every single time you have to pick them up and carry them outside. Every single time. It's the same way in a relationship. You have to protect you. You have to have changed you enough that you are willing to stand up to the person no matter how much pushback, no matter how much blowback, no matter how much laziness, no matter how much lethargy there is. That ultimately, if you've been cheated on, you are the one that has to do work to protect you while they are simultaneously doing the deep past work. All right, I'm just going to take one or two more questions here. Rob, you got something you want to say?
I got a couple of great mom questions.
I want to hear them.
Really good.
Let's hear it.
First, we have Brad, who says, my mom is an extreme taker. I want to try to help her, but she lives in a delusional world of victimhood and has turned me into her enemy since I went no contact with her to focus on myself to heal.
And so the thing is, I want to change my mom, right?
That's what it says.
Yeah, okay. Obviously, your mom has no interest in changing. But let's look at the real question. The real question is, why do you want to change your mom? See, we don't think about that. Well, why would I want to change my mom? She has a clear pattern of behavior. She's, pushing me out. She's treating like she's the victim, like I'm the asshole, all that stuff. Why do you want to change your mom? You want to change your mom because likely you fear something and you want something. You fear not having your mom in your life. You dislike the feeling of not getting your needs met by your mom, and you're wanting her to heal so that you two can have a relationship, so that you can get the love poured into your love cup from her that you've likely not been getting your entire life. You want her to be a mom. And you're being the strong one. You're being the responsible one. You're being the whatever. It's almost like you're acting as a parent. She's acting as a child. There's been an inversion of the role. Parentification. The people who like the big words like to say. All right? But it isn't about the big words. What it's fundamentally about is you are still wanting her to be a mom. You are wanting that relationship. You are wanting love. It's not, oh, gee, these are my mom, these are my parents, or honor your father and mother. No, it's because you're wanting something out of it. And you're not getting it. And it hurts. And so so there are two ways to get your needs met. One is the long way, and that is change this other person so that they'll then act differently towards me. In other words, my feeling good, my feeling happy, my feeling love is contingent upon you changing. That means she has power over you. She'll always have the power to make you fucking miserable by not changing because she knows you want her to change so that you can get your needs met. So she stays in control as long as you are still wanting something from her. Like if little Billy is 8 years old and I say, hey, Billy, here's a $20 bill. Do you want it? And Billy says, yeah. And I say, all you got to do is grab it. Of course, Billy, I'm 6'4" and I have long arms, so I'm going to hold it above my head. So jump, 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 Billy, give it a shot. Go get a ladder. And then Billy gets the ladder, tries to grab it, and I just take 2 steps back. Billy falls off the ladder. Poor Billy. And Billy is miserable because he can't get the $20 bill, right? I have something Billy wants. And as long as I have it and as long as he wants it, he's fucking miserable. So the way, one, to get your needs met is to try to get, the tall guy with the $20 bill, just please give it to me, please give it to me, please give it to me, please. No, fuck you. I like to see you miserable, Billy. That's your mom right now. The other way to get your needs met is to come to the realization that you have, 20, 40, 60-year pattern of behavior of your mom not meeting your love needs. And at some point you realize, fucking hell, I'm never going to get my love needs met. And you go through the grieving process of realizing I'm never going to get these love needs met. And then you begin to create a life that breathes life into you so that you're loving on yourself rather than depending on her to love you. Rob, you are so itching to say something.
Yeah, because I got a concise other mom question here. If you're ready.
I want to weigh in on the one
Go
that you
ahead,
just had,
Casey.
though.
Hold that thought, Rob.
I had to go no contact with somebody that was very, very close to me, not as close as a mother, but a sister. And I loved my sister. I love my sister deeply. And we went no contact. And then I did all of my work on trying not to love that sister. I was working so hard on letting go of the love for that sister for years. And then I realized that in working so hard not to love her, I was fighting against 50 years of loving her. And so then I changed my pattern of thought to, I'm always going to love my sister. I just can't have a relationship with my sister right now because she is hurting me. And I am open to having a relationship with my sister for the rest of my life if certain criteria are met. But for now, I am at peace in knowing that I do love my sister. I cannot have contact with my sister because I cannot continue to allow somebody to hurt me like that.
And in that vein, what that's a testament to is that, and a lot of people don't get this. They think, well, it's either love or hate, or it's either, sadness or rage. No. Multiple feelings can coexist within a person at the exact same time. If I'm out pounding nails, putting up fences out in my woods, and I hit my thumb with the nail, I'm screaming bloody murder. And Paul and Leslie up the street, quarter mile, they can hear me yelling, damn it, fucking blah, 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 blah. Plus there are tears coming out of my eyes. Plus, I'm excited because I finally got the fence done. I got like 18 different emotions going on at once. And so the sadness, the love, the anger for the sister or for a lover or for a parent, it's all there. But at some point you have to decide which one you're going to act on and which one you're no longer going to act on because it only brings more pain.
Don't deny yourself the feelings of loving your mother. Just accept the fact that you love your mother. You're always going to probably love your mother, but you just can't have contact with her because you choose a happy life over pain.
And you'll come to a calmer place in life the more you flush out all those feelings that are consuming you. You'll come to a calmer place and you'll make decisions more from your center if you get out all of this emotion by journaling, by writing letters you don't send, by talking to your therapist or your very best friend, or journaling your ass off, whatever it is. But you got to flush all that out because then you'll come to a greater sense of peace regarding the whole situation. Rob, your concise question on the matter.
First of all, A. Jujuni says, wow, KC, thanks. I'm having sister issues. That's it. So Good for you, KC. All right, here's the short question about mom. Jennifer asks, why would my mom bring up the fact that my dead stepfather couldn't stand the sound of my voice?
Oh,
wow.
There's a concise question for you.
That's
with a long answer.
Yeah. Why would your mom bring it up? Well, all three of us in this room right now, and likely a good chunk of my listeners, whether you're in Poland right now or, Kyoto, a lot of my listeners are saying, holy shit, who the hell says that to their own kid? Basically, your mother said that after stepdad died, mom said to you that, by the way, your stepdad didn't like the sound of your own voice.
Couldn't stand it.
Couldn't stand the sound of your own voice, daughter. All of us are saying, wow, why? Casey, in one sentence or less, why are you saying wow?
Because your mom wanted to hurt you in a way that you would not be able to protect yourself from. And you don't even know if that person ever said that. And we'll never know if that person ever said that. But your mom really wanted to hurt you.
That's a bingo. Rob, any thoughts on why you said wow?
Couldn't say it any better than Casey just did.
That's it. Your mom wanted to hurt you.
And I'm really sorry for that, by the way.
God, I'm so sorry for the pain that you're going through at the hands of your mother. And what's fascinating is we all know, we felt it the second we heard it, because that's someone wanting to hurt another person. When Tommy and Billy come out of their second grade class, they go out to their locker to get their shoes out of the shoe locker in the hallway. And Tommy says to Billy, "You're a dummy." And Billy says, "No, I'm not. You're a dummy." All right. When Tommy says that to Billy, why does he say it? Well, any second grader knows that calling someone a dummy is going to hurt their feelings. So Tommy wants to hurt Billy. Billy interprets it as a hurt because when you're in second grade, hell, I'm 57. When you're 57, no one wants to be called a dummy, right? But especially in second grade, that's a pretty brutal statement. And so there's clear intent. Tommy knows what "you're a dummy" means. Your mom knew. Your mom knew that would hurt you. Rob?
It's just getting worse. From Jennifer, stepfather molested me when I was young and mom ignored it.
Now this is just savage.
This is the same person?
No. Yes. Oh, it's the same person? Wow. Wait. Oh, here we go. So say that again, Rob.
All right. Same person, Jennifer, whose mother says your dead stepfather couldn't stand the sound of your voice, right. Also says, this stepfather molested me when I was young and mom ignored it.
Mom ignored it. So in other words, mom, okay, so then we got to ask ourselves, and I hate to say this, but I see this all the time, literally every week from clients, shit like this. Okay, it makes you wonder, if I'm in session with this person, my first question is, why would mom ignore it? What does mom stand to gain, or what does mom fear? Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, mom might have been fearful of his abuse and so on. Nope, sorry, it ends there. Child's being sexually molested, I don't give two fucks. Get the fuck out. Child's being sexually molested, and we're going to give the mother was protecting herself argument? No, sorry. There are churches, there are synagogues, there are Buddhist temples, there are social services, there are whatever. You get the hell out, okay? And your mother knew, and she ignored it. All right. So in other words, she's going to protect herself. She stands to gain something by staying in that relationship. So she's choosing to service her needs at the expense of the child, at the extreme expense of the child. And now, 20, 30 years later, she's saying, oh, by the way, your stepdad couldn't stand the sound of your voice. This is a brutal person. Your mother, I could say, oh, your mother's not a nice person. That would be doing a disservice to what was done to you. It's not your mother's not a nice person. Your mom's a fucking asshole. Your mom is a fucking asshole. Petty, self-serving. I have no mercy for someone knowingly allowing their child to be sexually molested. No mercy. Furthermore, for her all these years later to then say your stepfather didn't like the sound of your voice, that's willful, like Tommy and Billy in the hallway. That is willful intent to do harm. That is malice. Your mother wants to hurt you, to which an adult child's first thought becomes, but why?
I mean, I'm going to take a shot at this, and I am a lay person.
Go ahead.
I do not have a degree in psychology or anything, but your mother was so actually hurt as a woman that your father was molesting you and saw that as some kind of desire for you over her rather than a sickness, that she's now lashing out to hurt you because she's jealous.
Or, yes, that is one, and I've seen that before. Or the mother is allowing it to protect herself.
Well, for sure.
And I'm not just saying from abuse, but perhaps protect herself financially, whatever it might be. But yes, the jealousy is something. But now she's never going to own any of that shit. She's never going to own it. Why? Because that would be a self-proclamation. She knows Every single person knows that knowingly allowing a child to be sexually abused or abused in any form is heinously wrong. But if you're the other parent or the original parent, you came out of her vagina. She's the original parent, and she's not protecting you. Any person on earth knows that's horrific parenting. So she is protecting herself, her reputation, at the expense of you. So she's going to deny that reality for sure. Publicly, she's going to deny it. And she's going to continue to exercise power over you to keep that truth silent. Now, earlier we had somebody ask the question, how do you get somebody to get out of their perception of reality and just see reality? Good luck. Good luck. Your mother will never admit this. She will never own it. Why? Because everyone would hate her. She would literally be hated by everyone or almost everyone, right? And so she has to keep you down. Now, I want to give one more thing as to why a parent might do this. Allow this sort, or have not the sexual, allowing the child to be sexually molested, but the part about willfully, intentionally hurting a child or an adult child. I see it all the time. Why? One of the other things that goes back, one of the things I like to do is drill down, and very often I get this when people are writing it in their autobiography, but more often than not, I have to pull on some threads before I find out, and I ask, what were the circumstances behind your parents becoming pregnant with you? Because one of the things I see, and it's not just when the kids are young or when the parents are young. Oh, my mom got pregnant when she was 19, or, actually mom got pregnant by dad's best friend or whatever. That when we drill down to the circumstances under which the parent got pregnant, what very often is there, or not very often, what is often there is that the parent or parents have resented the child since before the child was born. And it could be that this hatred that your mother has for you, by allowing you to be sexually molested and then saying such things as she said to you, in saying, oh, your dead stepfather couldn't even stand the sound of your voice. All right. By these sorts of things, it could very well be that she has resented, maybe even hated you her entire life. She may have gotten pregnant by your dad and it was unintentional, or it ruined her life, or she had a career, or whatever it is, or it made her look like a, whatever to her own parents or to society. And she may have held her own misery, her own happiness against you your entire life. And she is still to this day taking it out on you. But I have one last question. And this is such a rich topic, but I have one last question that I won't be able to get answered by you, Jennifer, but it's simply this. If you have a mother who knows that you were sexually molested by her husband, your stepfather, she knew it back then. I mean this very respectfully. And the question is, why do you still have a relationship with this woman? No, you can. It's your life. You can do whatever the hell you want. Why would you have a relationship with a person who knowingly allowed you to be sexually molested as a child? Now, again, you can. It's your life. I'm not trying to impose my agenda. I'm just asking questions.
She doesn't.
Oh, she doesn't. Okay. Yeah. God bless you. Good. Great. Okay. That's that. Let's take one more question, shall we? This is great. This is, in a way, the perfect piggyback question. Crystal here on TikTok. This is a perfect piggyback question. It's a good standalone question, but it's a good one to sort of backstop the one we just took. And Crystal Shaw asked the question, why do we need outside validation to confirm how bad it was? Do you want to know why? Especially if this stuff happens in childhood, but it's not always childhood, right? We all know the term gaslighting, where someone is forcing, and it comes from that old movie, The Gaslight, whatever, and where someone is forcing their reality on you, forcing a lie, forcing a perception, forcing words onto you, and they hector you, and they pound it into you such that you start to believe it. And you start to believe it, and therefore, after that, a day, a week, a month, a year, 10 years later, and you're wondering, well, wait, is that what happened? And you distrust yourself, and you don't know. You need someone else's external confirmation or viewpoint, a third person or a fifth person, to say, no, that's not what was happening, or this person was gaslighting you, or this person was deceiving you. Okay, you need that. Why? Because you've been so conditioned by this person who was ramming their reality down your throat. So whether it's as an adult or whether it happens as a child, I have plenty of people who have their own memories whitewashed, not just because there was a lot of pain, but because the parent was telling them a different reality from what the child was experiencing. And so what do those childhood experiences have in common with the adult experience of someone who's married in a gaslighting situation, for example? What do they have in common? A power imbalance. A significant power imbalance. We buy into someone's version of reality when it's forced on us, when they have power over us, when we stand to lose something by not buying into it, or when we stand to suffer something bad by not buying into their reality. So whether you're married or you're a child of someone, if someone is forcing their reality onto you, you're going to buy it because either A, you trust them, or B, you fear them, or C, you fear losing them, whatever it might be. And so you buy into that reality, but eventually their version of reality, their perception hurts so much that you start saying, well, maybe that's not my memory. That doesn't feel right, but you don't believe yourself because they've pressed such messages into the wet cement of your soul that you believe them more than you believe yourself. That's why it's so powerful when you have family or friends or a therapist say, no, that's not what happened. That's bullshit. Right? And this, just as an aside, this is why I am in favor of therapy that is not just sitting back and listening. I am in favor of therapy that is interactive, where the therapist is giving their perception of events. Now, every therapist is different, but for me, I'm always feeding back. Here's what I hear. Because if I wait for that client to come to the realization themselves, they may never come to it. But for me to just say, well, that's fucked. That you were treated that way, it's just fucked. Say, he's just being an asshole. Or whatever, or the sequence of events seem to be saying that this person's intent was blah, 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 blah. That external confirmation of your reality, or that being exposed to a reality that you hadn't even considered because you had been so ensconced in this reality you have been taught, can be profoundly, it can be mind-blowing. It can break open a whole new life, whole new reality. And I think that is going to be the last question we take today, but I want to fire it back to the team today. Thoughts, feelings on today's session. Hell of a fucking show today, guys. What say ye?
You guys are looking at me? I'm usually in the booth.
I'm usually in the booth. Thoughts, Rob? What do you think about today?
I got a couple good comments here that say, thank you for all the work you do. That's from Maya and from Kimberly. And they say, since finding Badass Counseling, I found hope again.
That's so great. I love hearing that. That's fantastic. And Tina here on TikTok says, I can see why people fall for their therapist. It's KC. I'd fall for her if she were my therapist.
I'm definitely no one's therapist.
All right. And any thoughts on what we talked about today, you guys?
You covered it, man.
Yeah, I just hope that young woman that's having such horrible interactions with her mom still
was because she's out of the relationship.
Well, also that the mom is saying things to her like the dad,
Stepdad.
hated your voice. I hope that she's in counseling, and more than just counseling, I hope that she'll seek out group counseling, because I think it could benefit her to talk to people that are in her same situation, and there are plenty of them out there.
Yeah, and April, who was a guest in one of our counseling episodes, just checked in and said, small update, I confronted my mother, and she flat out called me a liar.
Of course she did.
Ouch.
Protecting herself at the expense of you. April, it's nice to hear from you. Thanks for checking in. And to all of our listeners around the world, from British Columbia to Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and all points otherwise, thanks for checking in. It's been great having you here. Have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by two-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.